All right, thank you very much indeed, Angela, and thanks for this opportunity. Can I just start by congratulating doctors in nutrition for getting together and creating this collective voice? I mean, this is absolutely critical that we have the voices of respected people who are well educated and well versed in the evidence, getting their voices together and creating this discussion that you're having at the moment. I think, in my view, the only way we're going to overcome what I call policy inertia, which is the fact that we have all of these recommendations from WHO and a whole lot of authoritative organisations making recommendations which are just not implemented. The only way we're going to overcome that is by lifting the voice of civil society and holding the main power brokers to account. So that's governments and the food industry. So as Shireen has said, this is a huge global burden. I don't think that many people realise that malnutrition in all its forms is really the biggest risk factor and far outweighs smoking globally. So every single country, different forms of malnutrition, but every single country that is a problem. And it's probably no surprise that it is a problem because of the way our food system is designed. If I was a systems scientist that had just flown in from Mars and I didn't know anything about the Earth food system and I analysed it with my systems knowledge, I would come out with the conclusion that the food system is there for two purposes. The first purpose is to make money, to make livelihoods for people in the system, to make profits for companies in the system, and to make export money for countries. So that's the first purpose. And the second purpose is to feed people who can afford it. So that's not nourish people, that is feeding them, just food. And we want more from that. And Shireen has just shown the purposes, what we want out of that. With the global syndemic, which the term we coined in that Lancet Commission on Obesity, we want to create food systems that create human health and well-being. That's the first thing. Environmental health and well-being, that's the second thing. Social equity, that's the third thing. And economic prosperity, the fourth thing. So we kind of separate out the equity, the social equity aspects from the human health, which some groups kind of lump together as just social good. So if we want the food system to deliver on those purposes, then it needs a fundamental redesign. And those things those outcomes need to be intrinsically brought into the food system dynamics. At the moment, because the food system is not there to deliver health, then when it doesn't deliver health and creates all this obesity and diabetes, for example, we have to tack other things on to the side, like nutrition education, to try to compensate for what the food system is not delivering. And the same is true for the inequities and for the environmental damage. So the global syndemic talked about the synergy of three huge pandemics: obesity, undernutrition, and climate change. And the reason that we joined those together as an entity was so that people could see that these things are related to themselves, and they interrelated in a negative way, but probably more importantly, that they had common underlying drivers. So what we see, the visual manifestation, the obesity, the undernutrition, and so on, climate events, if you look down underneath the surface, you will see the common drivers. And when you do that, then some of the solutions which might sit within the food system could well be what we call triple duty solutions. And I think sustainable, healthy dietary guidelines is a classic example of a triple duty solution. So it will address undernutrition, obesity, and climate change at the same time. But actually, it's even more than that. You might think of it just as the outcome. So you end up with a document that has the recommendations for the population and so on. And yep, that's good, that's fine, that's a valuable outcome. Not that many people pay too much attention to it or follow it, but that's only part of the purpose. Also, part of the purpose is the whole process, going through the evidence, having the debate, getting the evidence out there on the table. That's a fundamental purpose. Also, creating a policy foundation so that other things like school food, like labelling and so on, can base themselves on the dietary guidelines. In New Zealand, we've just had the New Climate Change Commission give its final report. In its early report of about 88 pages, the word diet appeared 0 times in our climate change. In the final report, it appeared once, because when they reported back on what some of the groups were saying, they said, some people said we should take a view on diet. So it is actually, the role of diet in climate change is not actually very apparent. So I think the importance of it is also can create that kind of mental model. So just on mental models, just to give you a flavour of where we're up to in New Zealand, I'm part of a group. It's a sort of a public-private group. The government has some funding in it, and other private sectors, and they're looking at climate change, and one of the big areas is food. And so we've just put out this document called Mana Kai. So mana is kind of strength and status and value, and kai is food. And we borrow very, very heavily from the Maori traditions and the Maori approaches of mana, of wairua, which is the spirit within food, of manaakitanga, which is the social value and interaction, kaitiakitanga, looking after the environment that the food comes from, tuakana taina relationship, which is the senior and junior. So humans are junior and the environment is senior. We should be learning from them. So all of these kind of concepts, I think, are where we need to start. And that's a mental model. And while it's not concrete at the moment, there's not a whole lot of concrete recommendations, our first purpose, I think, is to change the mental model of people about what food's all about. So I'll leave you with that, mana kai, and as an opportunity, I guess, to start the conversation on different mental models. Kia ora, thanks.